So this is showing Stephen Hassan. He's an expert on cults, and he's talking with John Dehlin of Mormon Stories podcast. They're talking about the cult of QAnon. And so they're just kind of diving in and talking about the cult-like characteristics. Let's listen to what Stephen has to say.
A few days of that.
Yeah.
But later we're going to talk about I Got Out as a hashtag movement. But what I really want everybody to understand is that there's a myth of invulnerability going on in the average person's mind. I would never believe something that crazy. You know, I'm a Jew, so I believe Moses saw a burning bush. Right. Okay, but that's a story. We get that. In any case, there's a lot of hurting people, and what I want is for former members of authoritarian groups to be like, yeah, it happened to me too. No worries. I got out. Everything's cool. To create an off-ramp for the millions. We estimate 30 million people are in the QAnon rabbit hole right now. And to start encouraging people to reach out to their family members and friends and say, I miss you, and how are you? And because a bunch of them are doubting since Biden's inauguration.
So that's hashtag I Got Out. Use it on Twitter, use it on Instagram. And is that only for QAnon, or is that for cults of all?
No, I'm constantly saying I got out of the Moonies. How about you? So it's for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Scientologists, and there's an actual website now, igotout.org, that a number of ex-members are putting up to try to help steer people to books and good resources for them to start getting their head.
So something to touch on there when he talks about reaching out to friends and family members that were maybe involved in QAnon, how a lot of these people are maybe now experiencing doubt with Joe Biden's inauguration. Along this same message, it can be so helpful to let people save face. If we were warning someone about dangerous beliefs or beliefs that we believe to be false, if these people start to experience doubt, it can be huge to not say, I told you so, I knew all along. But just to let them save face, there can be intelligent people who still believe some really wacky stuff if they have the social influence in place. Mention Scientology and Jehovah's Witness. There can be people that are really bright. You can have engineers and lawyers that get sucked into movements, or maybe they grew up into them. Within Mormonism, there are some people that have some really wild beliefs. And again, allowing people to save face and allowing people to still feel like they're confident and that they're competent, and allow them to maintain confidence in their knowledge and allow them to come to conclusions on their own without having to rub it in their face that they were a part of a ridiculous group or had ridiculous beliefs.
Together.
And do we have a sense really quickly, and then we'll jump into the practical issues. I would have thought that, that it was like Jehovah's Witnesses or even early LDS Church all over again, because there was going to be the inauguration, and the inauguration was supposed to be, the time when, when Trump took over and seized power and did all the things he was supposed to do, and the date came and went. And
exactly,
that's just like Jehovah's Witnesses and early Mormons. Do we have a sense that has decreased the number of believers overall in QAnon?
There's been a drop off for sure. Some of the hardcore people have been told March 4th is the real date when he's going to take martial law and take the country back again. And that's based on the past history in the United States, that the inauguration used to be March 4th. It was moved up after we stopped using ponies to commute from one place to another, I guess.
Well, one of the weird things that I've learned, and psychologically, is sometimes when the date comes and goes, people end up believing more strongly versus less strongly, especially if they're blamed for being part of the reason why the prophecy wasn't fulfilled. But I guess we can cover that another time.
That's Leon Festinger's cognitive dissonance theory, and it's an important thing for everybody to know. And I should say the BITE model is based on the cognitive dissonance theory of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And basically, if we can get people to do an extreme behavior, they're going to rationalize and justify it and feel good about it. And so,
So along that line of thinking, basically, cognitive dissonance, our beliefs and our actions, we want them to line up. So if we go out there and we're taking action, we're publicly identifying with something, we're posting about it on social media, we come to believe it even more than we originally did before we were posting on that thing. If we go out and we're protesting, we leave the protest feeling more strongly about that position than we did before. Now again, this QAnon group, like so many characteristics of a cult, not to compare them, but I understand there's a lot of group polarization and groupthink and confirmation bias even within some individuals in Black Lives Matter, as they don't want to objectively analyze what happened with Michael Brown, and as there are some statistics they don't want to look at. Again, not saying that it's comparable to QAnon, it's different, but you can have people that just get polarized and they get sucked into all types of different beliefs, conspiracy theories, religions. And so again, just having a level of charity and compassion for humans and understanding that everyone wants to feel accepted, and that sometimes it's that desire of acceptance that draws people in to wacky beliefs. Later, I'd recommend listening to the entire podcast, but later they talk about basically how to help friends and family members that are basically sucked into cult-like groups.
Going Clear was about Scientology.
Yeah, those are really great. Okay, so learn about destructive cults. The next tip you offer, Steve and Hassan, is step into their mindset, find out how they came to their beliefs. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I talk to folks, and let's say we're talking about QAnon, I might ask them when they first remember hearing about QAnon and get them to think back, and what did you think it was? And they almost universally say they thought it was crazy. And then you go, oh, that's interesting. So walk me through step by step some of the main things that caused you to take them seriously, and then that caused you to believe what they were teaching. And really empower people to remember details and tell you about it, because just in the process of reflecting back, material can come back into people's consciousness that can really help them a lot. So for example, when I was recruited by the women into the Moonies, and I remembered that initial conversation where I said, "Are you students here at Queens College?" "Oh, yes." Well, they weren't. "Are you part of a religious group?" "Oh, no, we're not." And then we were bowing to an altar with Moon's picture on it. Just remembering the lies at the beginning really helped to exit as well. So that's just a few points.
I love it. Okay, the next point is don't try to reason, and definitely don't debate or argue. This could backfire. Tell us why trying to debate or even reason can backfire.
So my experience is that when I got into the Moonies as Steve Hassan, this cult identity got programmed that believed that Moon and his wife were my true parents. And it was this part that was operating for the 2.5 years I was in the cult. And this identity was impervious to any negative thought or even question about Moon, the doctrine, or the group. So when somebody would try to say, how could Moon be the Messiah? He has an M16 gun factory. My father actually said that to me. All that made me do is do thought stopping, believe he was possessed by Satan, and feel persecuted by him. So his intention was to help me reason, but he was giving me facts in too direct a way where it was attacking the group. So I did this shutting down. The best technique is asking a good question with respect and being quiet and really waiting a long time for the person to think of an answer. and then following up with that answer. So you enter into their model of reality, into how they view the world, because ultimately they're the ones who will know how to help themselves, as opposed to you rescuing them or you persuading them that they're wrong and you're right. That doesn't work in this field.
Yeah, in fact, one of the slides I put up, it says, be curious, ask questions, learn to listen, and pay attention. And that seems counterproductive, because you kind of feel like, no, they believe these things that are hurtful and wrong. I've got to convince them otherwise. But you're saying, be curious, ask questions, and listen and pay attention, right?
Yeah, exactly. And take the frame of, hey, you're intelligent, you believe this. And if it's true, I need to believe what you believe. So please persuade me.
Oh, so you ask them to persuade you.
Yeah.
That's a
goals here that can just be applied to convincing someone of political ideas. If you try to argue with someone, if you try to just throw facts, even if the facts are true, it's going to often cause people to double down, to feel defensive. Where if you ask questions, if you try to go, like he said, the mindset of you're intelligent, and so what do I not know of? How should I change my beliefs? If you just try to go, or if you just try to come across humble and willing to listen, that is going to be so much more effective than just going in confrontational, telling them a lot of facts and statistics that may go against their beliefs. And so we can apply this to, honestly, interactions with family and friends when it comes to politics. And I don't even like talking politics with a lot of family and friends who have different beliefs, because I've seen it get heated in the past. Even if I try to stay calm, I've just come to think that sometimes it's not worth the relationship. I'll be honest, I have family members that have been indoctrinated by 40 years of Fox News. I don't think there's going to be much that I can say that will convince them or change their mind. Sometimes I'll ask little questions here and there, and I'll try to find common ground on some ideas. But maintain your relationships, take care of them. And if you do feel the need to engage with someone who has different political beliefs than you, take advice from Stephen Hassan here about asking questions and going in a kind of a roundabout way, not being confrontational. Because again, yeah, people will double down, especially if they identify publicly with their beliefs. Okay, so again, this was Stephen Hassan and John Dehlin talking on the Woman Stories podcast about how to help individuals who were sucked into the QAnon conspiracy theory. You can search up the rest of the video and watch it if you feel the desire to. Thanks for watching.